host for today, along with my two amazing hosts, co founders, and comadres, Rosario Lawrence and Vanessa Montañez. Rosario, Vanessa, and myself happen to be in the mortgage industry for several decades, which I will not date ourselves, but together we decided to create LeadHER Talks. And truly, it's been an amazing journey since we started last year. And this all came about in the midst of the pandemic, right? We want to stay connected with basically each other. But at the same token, we wanted to start an open forum for women and those that support women in terms of empowering one another, enriching, educating one another as well with relevant topics that really hold meaning for each and every one of us. So today we celebrate Women's Her Story Month. I don't want to say history, but really it's an amazing month that we want to acknowledge a phenomenal leader and truly a dear friend of ours, Mary Mancera.
So I have the pleasure of introducing Mary Mancera, who I've known for many, many years as a result of an association that we both belong to. Mary is the Vice President of Business Development and Industry Relations for the LGBTQ plus Real Estate Alliance. She is a 16-year veteran in the diverse real estate market. She spearheaded corporate partnerships for the National Association of Gay and Lesbian Real Estate Professionals for 6 years. Before that, she served as the communication director for the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals for 10 years. And that's how I met Miss Mary. In her corporate life, she also worked in 5 different industries, ran a national marketing department for over 500 million consumer sports brand, which I'm interested to know which one, because she hung out with the likes of Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Peyton Manning, and Tiger Woods on the job. So I am curious to hear about that. Uh, Now, for the good stuff, Mary is a certified movie junkie. She loves all kind of movies. She loves to travel, and this is true because I follow her on Facebook, and I am so jealous of some of the pictures that she's taking at all these amazing locations. Although now I know her, with the pandemic, she's a little bit more homebound since I've known her, but she is a gourmet cook, a writer, a food and wine enthusiast, and she's traveled through several vineyards around the globe. So Mary has an impressive resume and background. Also, she's a certified screenwriter, master screenwriter, and she's a gifted writer. She's written 5 screenplays. She thrives on adventure, and she's jumped off a 9,000-foot peak paraglider. I don't know, I can't even imagine that one. She's hiked the Inca Trail and traversed among the Amazon jungle, just to name a few of her things. So without further ado, Mary, thank you so much for being here today. We're so excited.
Oh, I am so glad to be chatting with you, ladies. I'm so proud of what you're doing. And with this programming, but with your lives and how it has unfolded in the time that I've known all of you.
Thank you so much, Mary. We're delighted to have you. So with that, congratulations on founding the newest trade organization, which we hear has grown tremendously in less than a year. And that is just amazing results considering what we have been through in the past year with COVID. Can you please share with our LeadHERs, what is the LGBTQ Real Estate Alliance that you founded in the last year?
Well, it's an amazing thing, ladies, when opportunity comes out of crises. And this was an example of when passion, purpose, and conviction come together at the same time in a way that serves up an opportunity that you probably wouldn't have otherwise seen coming. And I say that because, there was some controversy and some conflict that led a group of us that were the leadership of a former organization to come together and go, needs to be done differently. And our conviction about the purpose that the organization needed to serve and how it needs to serve the LGBTQ community was really clear. And when you have that kind of combination of all the right things in alignment, plus you have people who have have skills within, within the industry, and that it was just the perfect synchronicity of things happening in a manner that has opened doors and brought things together so fast from a timing standpoint, that it's a little dizzying, and it's a little of that, kind of pinch yourself, like, is this really all happening in the manner that it's happening? Because it's not that there, as you all know, it's not that there isn't hard work that goes into these things, or that there aren't things to overcome. It's that when things begin to unfold in a rhythmic manner, that it's like you got the wind at your back. And that's how the alliance has come into existence. And it's been an incredible ride in just 7 months.
That is incredible. I know when this concept was coming out, and knowing you, Mary, so well as the CEO, Brian, it was just like you were saying, the sales, like the winds were pushing you. It was the
Yep.
right time. The sales,
Yep.
the boat,
Yep.
everything is ready to go. But what I wanted to talk about also is, you shared that one of your mission and visions, that you wanted to create a world free of discrimination. That is one of your principal visions that I saw on your website. Can you provide us some recent examples of housing discrimination and how you plan to eradicate it with the Real Estate Alliance?
Well, sure. I mean, so there's just, in some context, there's like 11 million LGBTQ adults, and half of them live in states where they don't have basic protections that would protect them from discrimination and housing. It's gender identity and sexual orientation. And we've just come through a period of time with the last administration where it was an absolute rollback of rights for the community. So with even just now in this past week, it's in the past 2 weeks, that the Biden administration has announced, coming through HUD, protections that will now be extended through the Fair Housing Act, is huge. It's huge. The discrimination that happens every single day, that goes unreported, that has not had any support mechanisms to be able to bring them to light, is now this is possible. And the Alliance is working with the National Fair Housing Alliance, and we're now engaged in conversations with them where they're actually getting actionable on cases on behalf of the LGBTQ community. So the discrimination is probably one of the biggest obstacles for the community. Housing, certainly. Supreme Court decision this past year on workplace protections, big deal. But if you think about it, what the Civil Rights Act in 1964 afforded most citizens, American citizens, the community is missing from that. The LGBTQ community is missing from that, which makes the Equality Act and the possibility of the Equality Act being approved and passed by the Senate the absolute law that we need to be able to advance on more of an equal footing. Now, that doesn't mean, I'm not to sound naive, that I think that discrimination is going to go away. That is not the case. We have seen in the past year, with the emergence of movements in Black Lives Matters and that you can be protected under the Civil Rights Act and still be a victim of discrimination. So I believe that that law is important, but each one of you works for organizations and Fortune 500 companies that really, I believe personally, that corporate America leads social change. not government. And so it is when corporate America gets behind causes and puts their foot down on policies and enacts rules that protect their employees and gives a voice to the minorities that are within their workforce. That's where all of this starts, and really it becomes the glue of what makes a real progress happen.
Very well said, Mary, and I do agree with that, especially given the focus and also the growth in terms of diversity and inclusion across corporate America, right? That's become a big focal point for many. Mm-hmm. And so I'm proud to say that, you know, us ladies here right now, we represent that. And just share with our viewers how we can support the LGBTQ Real Estate Alliance. What is the cost to become a member?
Sure. Yeah. So, you know, when we, with the Alliance, I think there's 22 different title categories that you could become a member under. You can do a non-directory membership if you're in, let's say, in a more professional role like Vanessa. She's not selling real estate. You know, she could be a member, a non-directory member, and that starts at $75. But for a directory membership, so if I'm a loan originator or a real estate agent or a mortgage broker, I would want that, because then I have a consumer-facing profile for the LGBTQ consumer who's looking for a service provider that is an ally.
Awesome. That's awesome. And one question here, given that we are, you know, in March and we're celebrating Women's HERstory Month, with your incredible background and accomplishments, what important message would you like to share to inspire other women?
Well, you know, what I would say, ladies, is that don't underestimate your power and influence. I think for women, one of the things that we often do, this has nothing to do with titles or roles or jobs or anything, is that we underestimate how we impact others. And well, let's just be honest, you know, with Latinas, it's in the blood, right? And it's part of how we're raised, and we're raised to be strong women, and we're raised most often by women with conviction. And so you come away with a set of ideals and wonderful foundation of integrity that just in the process of you being you and championing the things that matter to you, you're influencing other people around you. And so it's not just limited to the workplace, it's limited to everybody that you cross paths with. And so I would say to women, is because that's what I notice, not only for myself, but in those that I'm close to, that the thing that we all do is that we underestimate the impact and the influence and how we affect other people, other women, in those that we know, and how we engage with them.
I love how you positioned it, because it opens the door for me now to say this. We have a saying, and I believe one of our past guests talked about it and said, to see her is to be her. So you have been one that we have seen throughout our career and emulate in many ways. And so you have touched all of us in one shape or form. So with that being said, as a successful woman leader in the real estate community, which tends to predominantly be men at times, you've been able to be a staunch advocate for the LGBTQ community. How have you been able to cohesively integrate all of your passions and break the barriers and pay it forward for others, all of us, across the board?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, because I think that, you know, we're talking about different, you know, when the point of me working in different industries, but also different communities. right? From NAREP to NAGLREP to now the Alliance. And, you know, each of these, I think I found more of myself and my voice relative to my Hispanic heritage and my pride about that. And being LGBT, right? That is, from my generation was no easy feat in sort of owning that and being visible to others out there. What I would say is that you know what in the real estate industry, you know, where women are a predominant force. 60% of the realtor base are women, yet it is the men who are in more of the visible leadership roles. And so, as what you all have done, right, it's inserting yourself into situations and circles and conversations where you're presenting your ideas that are principle and purpose based, and being willing to own those, you know, own those ideas and advance those ideas. And you know, you don't win every battle, but you know, the more that you are able to influence that conversation by being involved in the conversation is what makes the difference, because people remember and they'll come back and they'll go, oh yeah, that's right. Right. And so, you know, sometimes it takes a while for ideas to take form and to be able to advance, but you gotta get in the conversation to get those out there and to be heard.
You're absolutely right, Mary. And I think why I want to ask you this question is also because we're seeing this play out, right, in Hollywood. And given that you're a certified movie junkie, I might have to test you, okay? Because I love movies too, so I might have to dethrone you, Mary. But one thing's for sure, you're obviously a screenwriter. That I do not have under my bucket, right? But with that, I was just curious, what's your take on the lack of diversity that we're seeing that play out, right? With the Golden Globes, you know, the Queen Gambit debacle, right? You heard about that, I'm sure,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And also just, you see it play out with obviously the pay disparity between male, female. You see that with ageism, right? For some of those actors.
Yes.
And also the LGBTQ community, right? Should straight actors play LGBTQ roles? So I'm just curious, what's your take on that? Because clearly we see some of that obviously in all industries, discrimination, but here in Hollywood, given Golden Globes was not too long ago, I was curious.
Well, you know, life imitates art, right? I mean, it is one of those things that I personally is in so many of this with the women's movement, the women having an international forum, women having forums like this, that there's momentum to this. And so naturally, I mean, Hollywood is yet another business. It's yet another industry. And so the same, you know, structural dynamics that have ruled the workforce for women in other industries are definitely at play there. So, which is why you're seeing, you know, in these award ceremony, and why does it happen there is because they're high profile, and because you've got A-list actors and directors and producers that are in front of the camera that are using that moment to call out the disparities in that. And the disparities are the very ones that we discuss in our industry, right? There's one that our friends are facing in their industries as well, and they're real, and there's nothing that's going to change about that until women and people of color start having more access to those opportunities. It's changing. It feels like it's happening painfully slow, but it's changing. And so, I mean, we're seeing all black casts, right? We're seeing someone as powerful as Oprah Winfrey and Tyler Perry that are producing their own projects. And the more that that happens, the more women directors that are out there, the more women screenwriters, LGBTQ screenwriters, that are out there, the more that this will come, come to the forefront, and this will shift. But it's been a long, um, powerful hierarchy that has dominated that business. Big money, big power. That's the whole notorious, legacy of the casting couch, right? And what actresses have had to do in order to sort of make their careers. So, there's a lot of undoing here on a lot of different levels that's happening.
Well, the important thing is that you're seeing that happen as slow as it is, stemming like from the Me Too movement to seeing more
Yep.
diversity. And I think definitely the Hollywood Foreign Press, we're going to see a lot more diversity come next year when they bring in new talent. So there's definitely room, and it's good that they have a platform and to capitalize when you have that, a few seconds of fame when you're giving your acceptance speech. But you could really change that narrative and change that platform. So awesome. So because we do this and we ask all our guests, our question to you is, what does a LeadHER mean to you, Mary?
Well, women empowering women. That's what it means to me. It's exactly what you guys are doing. It's going out of your way to give another woman, a tip here or there, or some advice, or to offer some support, or just be a sounding board. I would say, that one of the best things to have, and you have a built-in here with the three of you. But I think one of the best things that women can do for themselves is to have their own kitchen cabinet. The kitchen cabinet that was Andrew Jackson, who was president at the time and had an unofficial cabinet that he sought advice from that was outside the elected, the appointed cabinet. And so, I've had a kitchen cabinet for most of my career, and some of them are the ladies that and it's really been a real helpful and empowering experience to have that resource to turn to.
Thank you. I will definitely take note of that kitchen cabinet. I know I've got my two girls here, my sidekicks.
You sure do. Yeah.
Yeah, our little tribe here that we have.
I love it. Yes, I mean, I actually have been referred to it as a board of directors. I'll say that as I made transitions in my career, I was like, "You're on my board of directors," and not realizing it's my kitchen cabinet. So I love it. I really, really love it, Mary.
It's a safe place where you let your hair down. You put out your gripes there, and you whatever. So I've had when I was more on the PR side of my career. I have a group of other publicists that we would meet for lunch, and it's been something like 15 years that we've been doing that. Over time, what happens, as I'm sure, is the case with you and other women, is like, okay, the business becomes this part, and life, and the conversation about life becomes the dominant theme of what you're talking about, because you realize you're sort of watching one another grow up, and you're always in a process of growing up. No matter how old you are, you're always in a process of becoming whom you are. So to have that sounding board in that safe place that people are able to speak to you candidly, and you can speak to them candidly on things that you're confronted with is just gold.
Absolutely.
It absolutely is.
Reminds me of the book of Michelle Obama on becoming. You never stop becoming. You're always growing.
You never stop becoming. That's right.
Yeah. Mary, we want to thank you from the bottom of our heart for you being here with us today and sharing your story. It's been wonderful listening and getting to know you every time a little bit more, peeling that onion. You are so rich and you have so much depth, and we want to thank you.
Thank you.
I want to continue success on your new endeavor with Real Estate Alliance. I know it's
Thank
going
you.
and it's growing amazingly well, and it's going to continue. I know this. So,
Thank you.
leaders, you're welcome. Leaders, we want to hear from you. We promise next week's Leader Talks is one you don't want to miss. We're going to have a surprise LeadHER also celebrating Women's HERstory Month, right, Chantal? I like that. So don't forget about us. Share our feeds with others. We want to invite more leaders like yourself to join this open forum to enrich, educate, and empower other women like yourself. So thank you and stay tuned for next week's episode. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
All righty.